Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 166. So good to be here with all of you. I am really excited for today's topic because it's something that I thought a lot about. It's something that, I see so like coming up for women specifically this time of year. And I'll just jump right into it, right? This topic of like, it can be so easy to get lost in our to-do list, especially right now. It's like, let me just get things done. Let me get organized. I was so excited to like get to the bottom of my overwhelming laundry pile. Like it's so exciting to like let me get into routine. Let me get my house back organized. Let me get the laundry done. Let me get into like getting all the meal prep. Like you can get so into your to-do list. This is such a time to kind of like be like, oh, finally I can get into routine. I can feel like my life is back in order and get everything back the way that it quote unquote should be. We'll get back to that. At the same time, it's so easy to then get lost in that, right? For the to do list to become the totality of what we're focused on. Now, it's especially in this time period, right? So here we are, we go through the Chagim, we make a lot of promises or a lot of commitments to ourselves, to Hashem about what we want in our lives, who we want to be, what we want to create. And then, but we're still in the Chagim. So it's very hard to like stay to really show commitment, right? And I always talk about how like this time period we now have like 2 months. We're already in the middle of those 2 months, but like 2 months between the end of Sukkot and the beginning of Hanukkah to really just create routine, right? There's like no Chagim. There's yes, Shabbos, but it comes every week, right? We have Thanksgiving every week on Shabbos. As I once heard a funny story about, that's like how you can some I think Chabad rabbi got like a supermarket to have more kosher products because he was like, we have Thanksgiving every week. Like I'm actually Canadian. I don't really know this, and now Israeli, thank God. So I really get this Thanksgiving thing, but I see like all the prep and all the thought that goes into it. And now it's like, well, we do that every week at least, right? Okay, so we have Shabbos every week, but that's part of our routine, right? It's part of the to do that we have to do. And so on the one hand, it's like this, okay, now we have time to really create and like create act on the more deeper commitments that we made about our year, right? The commitments that we made about what we want to create, who we want to be, what we want to focus on in terms of our own selves. And at the same time, it's like, oh, let me just finally get everything back to order. Let me finally get everything back to normal. Let me finally get into a routine of getting the things done that I need to get done. And so, very often, now I'm sure some of the commitments that we make might have to do with staying on top of our to do list, and some of them might be loftier, right? They might be about spiritual goals, they might be about relationship goals, they might be about personal, like taking care of ourselves or, how to be in a more relaxed and connected state, right? And we're kind of standing at this like crossroads where on the one hand this is the time that we can start focusing on those goals. On the other hand, we could, it's a time where there's a lot that needs to get done and a routine that we want to create around that. And I think what something that's easy to happen at this time is that we can get into this mindset of, okay, the lofty goals are important to me, the emotional, spiritual, relationship goals are important to me, but let me first get done all the things I need to get done. Let me get to the bottom of my to-do list. What's the problem with that? There is no bottom to the to-do list. That list is never over, right? Because thank God, as even if we do get to the bottom of the list, there's more to do, right? As like I always love to quote my mom who says, unless you're doing your laundry naked, you have more laundry to do, right? And when you are, you make you could cook all the meals for your family and thank God you're going to have to cook them again tomorrow, right? You may get everything so cleaned up, but people are going to walk in and live life, right? I actually was having a conversation with this about one of my kids because she's kind of like really gotten into like the cleanly thing and trying to help and being more like cleaning, and she's like, I really like am getting really like it's bothering me to see mess. Is that a problem? And I said, well, it can be a problem. And here's the way I said it to her, and here's what I'm going to invite everyone here to really kind of to start this conversation of how can we find a balance and how can we recognize like that just getting to the bottom of the to-do list, if that's our like what happens when that's our only focus. Because like I said to her is, sometimes we can be so focused on keeping things clean, but there's the reality that like life is messy, people make messes, right? You cook, you put things down, you use a dish, like there's a lot of just stuff around, right? And things that need to get cleaned up and things that need to get to be put away. And kids are playing with toys and sometimes they have projects and kids are, there's books around that people are learning and reading and there's, food that people are making and there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And we, have like a one room everything of like our kitchen and our living room and our dining room is all kind of like one room, right? We're in this, thank God, like just an apartment. So, but and I know many of you may be able to relate to that even if you have multiple rooms, that's still like so then you have multiple rooms that are messy and there's still homework on the kitchen table and toys like in the bedrooms and like things there's always stuff around, right? So I said to her, like, on the one hand, it's so good to like want things to be clean. And of course, I appreciate the help. I appreciate you coming in and wanting to clean. Like, that's amazing. And at the same time, that it can very easily end up leading to more stress, right? Why? Because if you walk in and you see a mess and then you're stressed about it, or if then when you see people making a mess, you get angry or you get upset or you feel stressed, now instead of wanting things to be clean because it keeps the house calmer, now it's actually creating more stress, right? Do you guys relate to that? And that's like a bit of like a thing, right? That I've noticed, like the times where like I'm more focused on yes, keeping things orderly and clean and getting to like the getting things done, then we can lose some of that intention of connection and being calm and being the woman that I want to be and creating more of a safe, loving space. At the same time, if things are flying, if things aren't getting done, if no one has socks in the morning or food to eat, or if there's, mess everywhere, it also doesn't feel very calm, right? So it's not that that our to-do list doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Of course we have things that we need to do. And it's important to check in with ourselves about am I getting so focused on my to-do list that I'm not making time for the reason why I have this to-do list in the first place, right? Where I'm not giving focus to what the whole purpose of the to-do list is, right? Is the purpose of getting everything done and getting everything clean so that it will be clean? Right? Like sometimes we have to ask ourselves, like, is the purpose of having everything clean be so that I can feel like I live in a museum or like so that it can feel like it can just look clean? Is that the purpose? Is the purpose just having all the laundry put away in the in the drawers? Is the purpose to just not have any more errands to do? It's reminding me even like spiritually of a story that I think a Rav told me once in a class of like it was like Erev Yom Kippur where people like usually go to mincha very early. So somebody came out of the early mincha and he goes, "Oh, I daven mincha and I'm milchik. I'm free. What am I gonna do for the next few hours?" It was like he was like, "Oh, we could just do anything now." And he's like, "Do you want to be that?" He was saying like, "Is that the type of Jew that you want to be?" Right? Like where it's like, "Oh, I have no mitzvahs to do right now. I'm not fleshik. I've davened mincha. I have nothing to do." Right? Like, where is our goal of getting things done so that something, right? So that it can feel safe in the home, so that everyone has what they need, and can go and go into their day feeling loved and cared for. So, are we, sitting at do we want the, to make all the Shabbos food so that it's like yeah, so everyone will say like, "Oh, your food's really good," or so that like we've, made so many dishes and it looks so pretty, or is it, more about how it's going to feel to sit at that table and look up at our husbands and look at our children. And when we can acknowledge that there's more to do than what's on our to-do list. And again, that's important for two reasons. Number one, because the to-do list never ends. It really doesn't. So we can tell ourselves, okay, I'm just going to put my head down and get everything done, and when everything's done, then I'll look up and I'll create connection and I'll take care of myself. And then I'll relax, right? Then I'll sit down for a minute. Then I'll have time to play a game with my kids. Then I'll have a conversation with my husband. Then I'll sit and learn something. Then I'll listen to a coffee and connection. Then I'll take care of myself when everything is done, right? Then I'll go on a 2-day retreat, whatever it is, right? When everything else is done, then I'll do what I need to do. Well, that list is never going to end. Please God, right? Please God, that list doesn't end. There's always what to do. So that's one reason that we don't want to get stuck in our to do list, because we'll never have time to do anything else. And at the other end, we want to also make sure that our to do list doesn't create the tension and stress that is negating like the purpose of the to do list in the first place. Right? So there's always going to be what to do, which is why it's also important to make sure that even though there's so much to do, we do make time for ourselves. We do make time for connection. We do see how we can let go of some of that stress of, you know, the way we think things should be, right? The way, by the way, like no one I speak to, very rarely do people actually call themselves perfectionists. We just have to recognize that we all have an image in our mind of what is considered quote unquote acceptable, of the way our house should look, of what's acceptable. And I do too. Of course we all do. No matter, how clean or not clean we expect it to be, how orderly we expect it to be. We all have a list of like, it shouldn't look like this. And I'm not saying that we need to get rid of that, because it is important for us to have like, certain standards and certain um, like not necessarily expectations, but values as to how we want our life to look, what we want our house to look, how much we feel is important to get done. At the same time, what we can work through is the excessive fear or the excessive stress that might come up and cause us to not be able to take that time or relax in order to also make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, to make sure that we're nurturing our relationships, to make sure that we're staying connected to the people around us that we're doing all these things for, right? And yes, I'm sure everyone, they may not, but you may be feeling like I'm doing all those things for everyone. Yes, and you get to check in with yourself. Is it like, am I what's the connection that I'm having with the people around me as I'm doing all of this? It just came to me how like very often there's like this like lore or whatever of like the man who spends so much time in the office thinking like, oh, I'll make time for my family when I make $100,000, when I make $1 million, when I become partner, when I retire, right? And then God forbid, by the time he retires, he may not have that time with his family. He may not have the relationship with his family to even know how to connect with them. And I think very easily we can get lost in a very similar type of story, right? Whether it's from our job or it's from, how much we need to get done first, that we could kind of get lost in that to do list and lose the intention of what it's all for, right? So that's why it is so important to also stay connected as we're getting things done. Because, like I said, of course, we do need to get things done, right? We have stuff we need to do, but to remember that the feminine is about being much more than it's about doing. So yes, we need to do. That's when we're going into our masculinity, the masculine side of us. We need to get things done. And we also, in order to create connection, in order to work on our relationships, including our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with Hashem, our relationship with our husbands, our relationships with our kids, our families, Am Yisrael, all of that. Relationships come from the feminine. The feminine is about the being. It's about, what do I want to create? Who do I want to be? Right? How am I taking care of myself? How am I nurturing myself so that I have the wherewithal, I have the clarity, I have the space to stay connected to who I want to be, and to take that time to create those connections as well, right? To remind ourselves what our values are, what our principles are, what matters to us. And there's so much focus on the doing, to also remind ourselves to be, to also remind ourselves that getting everything done is, not only can it not even happen, but is that really the top priority? What do we want to be our top priority? And to allow ourselves to ask those questions, and to be open to, okay, so what can I, how can I connect to that woman that I want to be, and be that woman with the people around me, even though there's a lot to get done, right? One of the things my clients deal with is that they'll be like, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to make sure that I'm relaxed. So when everyone comes home, I can be the wife I want to be. I can be the mother I want to be. I can be the woman that I want to be. It's like, oh no, but there's dishes in the sink. I'm freaking out. It's like, yes, acknowledge there will be dishes in the sink. And yes, do the dishes, right? And also being okay with there being dishes, right? Like, in order to not be totally consumed by our to do list, we do need to make peace with the fact that there will be things on the list that are not always done, right? And again, it's about getting clear with, like, at this time of year, especially, what exactly are the values that I committed myself to, that I want to build and create over the next year? Is it just getting everything done, or is it also about becoming the woman that you want to be, about creating the relationships that you want to have? And the fact that you're here tells me that, there's at least some of that in your desires. And, it definitely, I acknowledge you for being here, and I acknowledge you for being interested in this. And you're definitely welcome to share anything that's coming up, as I'm sharing about this. And to, sometimes it really starts with acknowledging the fears that come up when we think of not only focusing on our to-do list. There's people pleasing fears, there's what are people going to think fears, there's our own beliefs about, like, the way like I said, the way things should be. And also looking at, well, what are really my desires and my values that I want to create, and what can I do to create them? How can I make that happen? Right? Again, there's always going to be so much to do, and there's so much that can be created. Right? There's so much that needs to get done, and there's good that comes from everything that we do. And there's also so much good that gets to be created when we allow ourselves to also focus on our bigger goals, our relationship goals, our personal goals, our spiritual goals for the coming year. Is this resonating with all of you? I hope that it is. Did I freeze? I don't know. I'm seeing that there's a message that maybe I froze. So I hope that you did hear. Let me know if there's anything that I missed. For me, you did. Okay. What did you miss? I'll just what did you miss? Amazing. Okay. Making our desire a reality. Yes, when we can also give ourselves the permission to make our desires a reality, to realize what good will come from that, right? The positive that will come from that, right? And not just to stay focused. I'm reminded of something I think I once watched on an airplane. I think I saw it in an airplane. It was about this, like, woman who was trying to be like the perfect housewife, and she was making like decadent dinners and furniture from scratch, and she was doing all this, like, very, I'm the best wife, I'm the best mother, I'm the best housewife. And her kids were just like, we just want to play a game with you, or we're okay with, like, burgers and fries for dinner. Can we, like, have a real conversation? And it really stuck with me as, there's so much that we, of course, like I said, I'm not saying we can throw our to-do list out the window. That's where it becomes more difficult, right? Where life is gray, right? Where life isn't black or white. It's not all or nothing. This is something that, sometimes we're just looking for, like, tell me the answer, Hannah. Tell me what I should do. And we really it's really about finding our own personal balance. It's about recognizing for ourselves, and that's why we need to ask, that's the power of asking ourselves these questions, because on the one hand, we do need to get things done, and at the same time, if we're only focused on getting things done, then we get to ask ourselves that question: what am I going to miss out on? Right? What is it that the getting things done is really, what's my purpose for getting them done? And how can I kind of pull back and allow myself to create that purpose even before everything's done? Because it's not all going to get done and then I can do it. I have to do it even when things are not done. That's the only way it's going to happen. Right. So if I'm trying, I'll just give like a very specific, like, 1 day kind of example. If I'm trying to get everything done so that I can, have a conversation with my husband, or I'm trying to get everything done so that I can feel like I can breathe and relax. If I'm trying to get everything done so that then I can, go to the class that I want to go to, or listen to the whatever I want to listen to, then it's important to realize, like, that list is never really going to end. There's always going to be more things to do. So, can I set a time where, even though there's more to do, I'm going to have that conversation with my husband? I'm going to sit down and relax. I'm going to listen or go to the class that I want to go to. Why? Because that also matters. I also matter, and my relationships matter. Those things also matter. It's not a this or that, it's a this and that. They both matter. And when we give ourselves permission to matter in the middle of everything that needs to get done, and we give we give our goals and our values permission to matter, and we allow ourselves and our relationships to matter, we actually will get more done in a strange way. We may not get everything on our to-do list done, but we get to actually create what it is that we're really, you know, out, like, what our desires are, right? So I hope this was helpful for everyone. Yes, stay present, know where you need to stop to relax and be in the moment. That's a really good sum up. Like, sometimes we can't feel present in the moment because we're so focused on everything that we need to get done. At the end of it, it's like, I didn't even enjoy that, right? Can we take a moment to enjoy what we're creating? Can we take a moment to allow ourselves to be, right? To really be, right? The being, that's the feminine, that's the connection, is where we can focus, we can connect to, well, who do I want to be? What is it that I want to create? And allow ourselves to drop into that being, right? And even though there's so much to do, so that we can create the connection that we want to have, right? It's a funny concept, right? Like, what does that mean, being? We know what it means to do, and we may not know what it means to be. A being is allowing ourselves to not only matter based on how many checks we make on our to-do list, or not only matter based on what we can, produce, but it's about valuing who we are, and even allowing ourselves to create who we want to be and to express that, right? And it's often, it's something we do, like sitting down. We do it like not running around, right? It's more of like a presence, right? And that's where we create, that's how relationships really, for the most part, get created, right? Even if someone's, love language is acts of service, and you think, well, I have to do all these things for them, if, like, while you're doing it for them, you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, that's not going to help them feel loved, right? They're going to feel loved when you do it for them, and then you can, like, be there to, like, in a calm way, in a way where they feel that you're, doing it for the sake of connection, right? So I hope this was helpful for everyone, and I hope this helps you to, as we go more and more into these 2 months of setting routine for ourselves, to also be curious of like what is my routine that I want to create outside of my to-do list, outside of everything that needs to get done. And I'll just mention because it's only 2 weeks away, I do have this in-person retreat coming up where we could really, like I said, we have these areas of life that are really gray, where it's really about like it's not just this or this. It's not something we can just read a book about or just get generic advice. We really need to figure out what is my purpose or what is my goals, what is it that I need, what's getting in my way. And that's something that's so powerful that we can do in this type of intimate setting and through the exercises I've that I have perfected over the years doing online retreats, but now we'll have the ability to sit and do it together and really go into it. We'll have more time. We'll have time to do exercises together and really connect. We'll have time to chat. We'll have time to really get clear for you also before and after what it is that your challenges are, and rather than your challenges being walls, to allow your challenges to become really a window into how to move forward in your life. And sometimes we think like differences and challenges are like what's getting in the way, and then we have to like find solutions. Well, what if your challenges and your differences, they really were the answers? And it's so powerful when we can change the way that we see them, right? So that they don't have to feel like these barriers between you and the life and the relationship that you want to have. So if anyone wants more information on that, if you're interested, send me an email, right? We only have a few spots left, and it's definitely something that I'm getting excited about and I know can make a huge, huge difference in everyone's lives. And if it's something that I understand there's a lot that needs to get done, and it's hard to leave family, and it's hard to leave the to do list, and it's hard to leave kids, and it's hard to leave jobs. I get it. I promise you, I do. And the reason I'm inviting you to come is because I know the profound difference that it makes when you come back home after being on a retreat like this. I know the difference that it makes going back to your life. And I know that going on a retreat like this is what allows me to be the woman I am here with you right now. I know that I committed to it, that it was going to make a difference in the way I went home to my children, and it did. It was very scary to leave them. And I know that it only was something that continues to benefit my family. And if that's something that even if you're scared of, that terrifies you, something that you'd be interested in hearing more about, just send me an email at if any questions that you have, and let's go ahead and get you registered and hold your spot so that you don't miss out on this, you know, once in a I don't know when the next time opportunity. So I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you all next week, please God. And until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.